And then today we have a different format. You can see we got these high stools up here, so we're going to be a little bit more casual. It should be a little more fun. We're going to do a fireside chat without the fire. But to get started, I'll give you a little background on Gary Green. Gary is the former CEO of Alliance Building Services, which is one of the largest privately held building service providers in North America. In 2009, at the pinnacle of his building services career, Gary spun his business savvy and love for baseball into co-founding Alliance Sports with business partner Larry Botel. In June 2012, Gary acquired the Omaha Storm Chasers. He negotiated to buy the franchise from owners Warren Buffett, Walter Scott Jr., and Bill Shae. Gary has recently sold the Omaha Storm Chasers to focus on Union Omaha. In 2019, Gary took his experience in the sports industry world and negotiated to buy an expansion franchise from the United Soccer League, the USL. In 2020, Union Omaha became Nebraska's only professional soccer team. In 2021, Union Omaha USL League One Championship and won the USL League One Players Shield in 21, 23, and 24, making it the most successful team in North America men's pro soccer since its inception. So we have a list of questions we'll go through, and then at the end we'll open it up to Q&A for everyone. But just to start off, Gary, thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Thanks for being in Omaha. And, just to start off, how'd you get into sports ownership?
So how I got into sports, first of all, thanks for everybody for showing up this early. I'm getting used to today speaking this early, so I think I'm awake. So I got into sports ownership back in 1997. Me and my partner, Larry Botel, were pushing our baby strollers down Central Park West and just talking, and we had our day jobs, and mine was building services and his was real estate. And we decided, our love for sports was really something that was just a passion of ours. And we said, if we love it that much, why don't we just hire a broker to look for baseball teams on the eastern half of the U.S. And that first step is usually the hardest, and we did it. We hired somebody, and we just traveled around the country and had so much fun looking at minor league teams everywhere from Staten Island to Memphis, Tennessee. We were all around the country, and it was a great time. So we looked for a year, and you figure out what the right deal is by looking at enough of the wrong deals, and we stumbled upon a Harvard-educated boxing promoter. You heard that right, Harvard-educated boxing promoter. It wasn't Don King. A guy by the name of Lou DiBella, and he had a team in that was playing right near Mohegan Sun. And his concept, which was way off, was that if people went to gamble at Mohegan Sun, they'd stop for a minor league baseball game. So that was not happening. And so he was in a little bit of distress. The deal had a little bit of hair on it. And so we came in, we felt very comfortable with him as a partner, and we bought the team. And Richmond, Virginia at the time was the largest city in the country without a professional sports franchise. And we immediately saw that was the right opportunity because we had looked at so many wrong ones, and we had a real success story there and moved the team to Richmond, Virginia. Have led the league, the Eastern League in attendance every year since then, in 2009, and it's been a real success story.
Thanks, Gary. So one thing we mentioned is that when you got into the Omaha Storm Chasers, you met with, was it Warren Buffett, Walter Scott Jr.? Can you tell us about when you acquired them? And not a lot of people get to sit in a room with Warren Buffett, so just curious, what that experience was like.
Sure. So I didn't know where Omaha was. I didn't know where Nebraska was. I got to be honest. And my broker comes to me. He's like, I know you just closed on this deal, but there's a team in Omaha, and if you're interested, your first meeting will be with Warren Buffett. And so I was like, all right, well, people pay a lot of money for that meeting, so I kind of monetized it in my head. All right, I'm $3 or $4 million ahead of the game if I have that meeting. So, so I got there. I got to Mr. Buffett's office about 20 minutes early just to kind of get myself psyched up and get my game face on. I'm like, all right, I'm going to talk about this for years to my kids, my grandkids. Like, this is the moment. And he came and got me 20 minutes earlier. So much for my preparation. He brought me in. I was ready to feel uncomfortable and high pressure. I sat down in his office. My office was bigger than his. He had Heinz bottles all over the office because he was doing the Heinz deal. And I leaned back in the chair and we talked baseball for an hour and a half. And we walked around his office and he showed me his baseball collection and sports collection, and everybody that meets with Mr. Buffett, his love of baseball, he gets gifts from everybody. So I knew right then and there, like, he was getting something from me no matter what happened. So we spoke for an hour and a half, and he stood up at the end of that, put out his hand, and said, I'll sell you the team. I said, Mr. Buffett, what about the numbers? I came here ready to discuss numbers with you. I told everybody I was going to negotiate with you. He's like, I'll give you a deal. That was it. So, but before we can move forward on this, you got to go speak with Walter to make sure he's okay with it. So we get in the car. Remember, I don't know Omaha, so I'm just kind of here for the first time and looking at the ballpark, and Marty's touring me around, and so we meet with Walter Scott. We sit down. We said we'd like to buy the team. Mr. Buffett would like to sell it to us, but he wanted your approval. And he said, well, if Warren's selling it, then I'll sell it too. So it went from a 90-minute meeting with Mr. Buffett to a 90-second meeting with Mr. Scott. and those were my first 2 meetings in Omaha.
So with the Storm Chasers, tell us about, the experience and, kind of what your game plan was. You bought the Storm Chasers, and then most recently sold the Storm Chasers. So, start to finish and everything in between. Tell us about that.
Sure. So, all the heavy lifting on the Storm Chasers was done before we bought the team. The team had been rebranded. The stadium had been done. So we were walking into pretty much a turnkey operation that was riding the momentum of a new stadium. And when you have a new stadium, fans will come out in the middle of the winter and choose their seats in the middle of the snow, and it's easier to sell sponsorships. And so we sat back and learned from Marty Cordero, who's here, and Alan Stein, and really learned and saw what they did. There was a moment, I got to admit, there was a moment of arrogance and thinking we were smarter than them, that they brought us a $75,000 fireworks sponsor. Who was the sponsor? Do you remember who it was?
American Family Insurance.
American Family Insurance. And my partner and I thought we knew better, and we didn't want to approve the first deal we got. So we were like, let's wait and see if we got a better deal. You don't do that. You don't do that. So that was we made our mistake early, and we recognized that just because we are good in one business or a couple businesses doesn't mean we are good in the baseball business. And just because you love baseball, the game, doesn't mean you know anything about the baseball business. So it was right then and there was a lesson I learned, that just sit back, watch what the people who've done this for over a decade do, and learn, and sit back and learn and be a sponge.
So recently, in the sports business, we've seen a lot of private equity get into sports ownership, with Boston Celtics selling recently, and just sports multiples. And not a lot of people in this room, including myself, kind of know, how that industry's changed. What prompted you to sell the business? Was there always an exit plan, or did the right opportunity just come knocking on the door? And tell us a little bit, broadly, how valuations have changed since you bought the business to now?
Sure. So we were bought by private equity. They are rolling up, it's a group called DBH. They are rolling up minor league teams. And they have MLB's endorsement, and MLB likes the fact that it's all consolidated. They're bringing a level of sophistication in rolling these teams up, a level of partnership with MLB that these teams didn't have. And like any private equity, you roll it up and you get any kind of volume to it, it becomes an asset that you can sell. Not that they have any plan to sell, but as far as the reason to sell for me was Union Omaha. And really, it's hard to do two things well, even though you're in one city. Originally, when we started Union Omaha, I said, I don't want to own any more teams unless they're in the same city, because there's only so many places you can travel to. There's only 24 hours in a day. And so when the opportunity came up to start a soccer team in the same place I had a baseball team, it wasn't a no-brainer. We had to study the soccer industry, but we saw where it was going and how popular it is, and at the time it was. And so we did that. Incidentally, and I don't think a lot of people know this, we negotiated a deal with the NBA, I don't know how many years ago it was. It was right when Baxter was in construction, to buy a G League team and move it to Omaha. We had a deal with the NBA for $6.2 million, and we met with the Denver Nuggets, and we could only have this team if we had an affiliation. And so we met with the Nuggets. They were interested, and then Adam Silver said only NBA teams can own their G League, D League teams. So we thought we had a deal. We thought we had a great deal. $6.2 million on that deal today is a steal. And our break-even point was 3,000 fans a game. It would have been at Ralston or Baxter. Baxter was in construction, so we toured it with hard hats. And then it didn't get far enough that it was close, but we were excited about it. So when the soccer opportunity came up, we jumped all over it.
And now with Union Omaha, can you tell us, so that's the present project, can you kind of tell us about where that industry's heading, and then specifically your plans with Union Omaha? I know there's been a lot of talk in the news about potential stadium, potential downtown stadium. Just tell us more about that.
Sure. So as far as the future of American soccer, there's interesting facts and figures. We're all here. We're not exactly the demographic that the business model is built towards, and I'm speaking about age. So I'm 59, so I'm not insulting anybody here, I hope. Really, American soccer is geared towards right now millennials, Gen Z, and Gen Alpha. And really, as far as those fans are concerned, Premier League will always be the better quality of soccer in our lifetime, and maybe even in their lifetime. They're not concerned with the quality of soccer. They love soccer in their backyard. They love live soccer. They love soccer that's on at 7 p.m. instead of 6 a.m. And the numbers are showing it. The television numbers, American soccer is starting to overtake Premier League and UEFA, NWSL is. And those are the numbers that really our business model is planned towards. American soccer is getting more popular. And with the kids coming, everybody in this room remembers their father taking them to their first baseball game. Well, the kids who are, the parents who are Gen Zs and millennials will talk about their fathers taking them to their first soccer game, and so more and more. So soccer's on the uprise. I think as far as the stadium, soccer's in a different point than it was 6 years ago when we started, and it was maybe a luxury item, a bell and whistle that would have been nice. Cities, now almost 1 million people, cities of this size and smaller are finding that it's young people need professional soccer in their city. And if they don't have it, it's a negative. And so I think what has to do with that, I'm not kidding when I say this, I think Ted Lasso has a lot to do with that. The same way that what was that minor league baseball movie that had a lot to do with the growth of minor league baseball? Bull Durham, yeah. So I think it's a second example of like American pop culture affecting the growth of a sport. And we've met with city leaders, and even they've said, like, watching Ted Lasso, I get what you're trying to do. Literally, that's what they said. So it's not an extreme example, but American soccer will never overtake the quality of European soccer. We don't have the history of it. We will never have the history of it. But young people are gravitating towards it, and that's our business model, is that demand that's going up.
So within this soccer business, there's a lot of business leaders in this room, so we like to touch on lessons learned and business goals and how you achieve them. So one thing is, within the soccer industry, kind of how do you differentiate your franchise from competitors, and really how do you, what's the approach to, work with the city to grow your business ultimately?
Sure, and it's interesting. I get to speak to all of you who have led your companies so successfully, and I get to tell you my concept of it, which is special and unique for me. So, and I know so many people here that I've seen over the years and heard your success stories. So really, as far as being an owner of a sports team, not just a soccer team, I think that as an owner of a sports team, I think sometimes people will expect you to be a certain way. Thank you.
Of course.
Yeah. I think they expect you to sit in your suite, in your box, and kind of watch the players and watch the game, and do your own thing, and kind of just be aloof and be outside of kind of hanging out with the fans. And I always say this: if you're going to buy a sports team, especially at this level, it's not enough to be a fan of the game. You have to be a fan. You have to be a fan of the fans of those games. And so I think just going up to as many people as you can and introducing yourself as the owner, I think it can take people by surprise. I think it makes people feel part of the team. It makes them feel part of the family and part of the organization. So I think just being like really going out of your way to be friendly, and really going out of the way to spend as many time as kids, and it's not just about the sponsors and the players, and that's the glamorous side, but you got to connect with every fan. And there's a famous line by Bill Veck, and I always, at a baseball game, I always tried to go to the furthest point from the field, and Bill Veck said the most knowledge at a baseball game are the fans that are furthest away from the field talking about baseball. So I'd always go to the back bar and talk baseball with those fans back there, and it's just so much fun for me to just be able to interact with the fans. And it's a different fan base for Union Omaha, and I really tried to embrace the fans there and the supporters group. And went to a game last Wednesday in Des Moines, and sat with the supporters for a little bit, and then sat with the players a little bit. And just as an owner, I want to surprise people that I'm going that extra mile to spend time with them and show them they're important and part of the organization and part of the family. As far as the players, in the baseball for the Storm Chasers, Marty has a lot to do with the players and the manager, and I really didn't, because the Royals employ those players, and so we just run the business, which is an interesting way and kind of more focused way. On the soccer side, I feel like I have 22 sons for the summer, because we have 22 players. We have a coaching staff that we hired, so much more involved in that. So to me, in front of the players, it's important for them to have a little bit of a father figure besides the coach. I'm never replacing the coach. It's his locker room. But I want to put those players, even if we don't win a championship, I want to put those players in the best place to succeed, not just as soccer players, but as young men for the rest of their lives. And I tell them that, and take them to dinner and say, look, you're not just players, you're people, and I want you to remember this organization as the year that was your most important year for pushing you forward in your life. And so I want them to be the best players they can be. We make sure that we give them the best nutrition in the league. There's different things that we do. one of the things, and there's a CBA, and we go well behind it, beyond it more than any other team. You know, as far as a food stipend, you know, I don't want these players feeding themselves in a way that maybe we can control it more and give them higher quality food and higher nutrition. So there's that, and there's certain things we do with hydration that other teams aren't doing. And the most important thing, you know, we're the winningest team in North American soccer over the past 5 years since we started. A key thing and an obvious thing is try to make them live under the same roof. You know, we've lived in the same building in Blackstone ever since we started, and most of the teams that are out there, they're looking for the best deal for their housing, and they're scattering their players all over town. And so the players really only see each other for practices and for the games. And I was out last night at camp, which is right next to the building at Blackstone, and we had 10 players sitting there just having dinner, and they said they did it because they want to create a stronger bond in the team. And the fact that they're thinking like that is unusual. So I really love that. I called the coach, and he really loved it too. And we play together, like we play as a team. And when you play as a team, we don't have the biggest payroll. By far, we don't have the biggest payroll. And we're, you know, usually in the lower third of the payroll. But our team plays like a team, and when you have players playing like a team like that, you get results.
So what, can you tell us about any lessons you've learned along the way from other sports owners?
Great question. I approved that one?
Yeah, it's circled.
Okay. Look up to a lot of sports owners, and I love those polls that come out from the NFL teams about which owners they love, and it's always, everybody can relate to this. It's the Kansas City Chiefs win the Super Bowl, you know, virtually every year except for last year, and their ownership gets an F. So I always think that's interesting, and I'd love to understand why a little more, because usually when you win, like, everybody loves everybody. So it's that was surprising. So I look at a couple owners as I kind of look up to. There's the New York Islanders. I'm not a huge hockey fan anymore, but there's an owner by the name of John Ledecky who just, that style of just being in the middle of fans and just he loves the fans just as much as the game. And when they win, like, he doesn't just go for the owner's box. Like, he's in the middle of the crowd, high-fiving all the fans. And I love that moment for him. I'm so jealous of it that he can get that. And so I really look up to him. I look up to Steve and Alex Cohn of the Mets, because they took a team where the ownership was in the ivory tower, was in the ownership suite. And, you know, even though he's got the net worth of the next 4 teams cumulatively, he's a fan first, and his wife Alex is a fan first, and they're just in the crowd with the fans. Even though they're billionaires, they want to be regular people with the fans, and I really look up to them.
And then circling back on Union Omaha, you know, if you had to, if the plan went your way, where do you see Union Omaha 5 to 10 years from now in Omaha, and what's kind of the ideal vision for where Union Omaha goes from here?
Well, I answered that a little bit before, but I think that our attendance, you know, you have to, in sports, you have to buck that attendance trend of the inaugural season, everything going up, plateauing, and then going down. And so with the demand of soccer, and the way I see it, American soccer, football in Europe, but American soccer, I expect the demand for soccer and soccer attendance to work against that trend, and we continue to grow, and the demand for soccer continues to grow. And so, you know, Omaha is going to be one of the major soccer cities, USL soccer cities in the country, with the new stadium. Louisville's the standard. They have a $150 million stadium, and they're the standard that's set out. But I expect Omaha to be one of the top 2 or 3 soccer cities in the USL in the country. Really, to have an MLS team and to be a major league team, you really need to have a population of over 2.5 million, and even 2.5 million is a small market. So as far as our market is concerned, we're going to be the best of the best.
Thank you. So before we open it up for Q&A, one other topic I wanted to touch on outside of your sports franchises was just a little bit on your background, your family's business, and about, the growth of Alliance Building Services and any lessons you learned from that. And if you could just tell us kind of the story behind that, I think everyone here, would find that really interesting.
How many minutes do I have?
I think we got some time.
Okay, so my dad's story is really interesting, and I'm going to try to really condense it. He started out as a public defender, a lawyer in New York. A friend of his, he loaned a friend $5,000. He needed the money back for him and my mom to buy a house. The friend didn't have it. They got into a fist fight. The friend gave him $5,000 worth of wigs. So I remember a lot of boxes of wigs being in my basement playing ping pong. My father put an ad in Newsday. He sold those $5,000 worth of wigs for $10,000. He said, I think we have a business here. He went to Hong Kong and became a wig importer. He started importing wigs, making money, and he said, you know what, I can manufacture these wigs and make even more money. So he manufactured the wigs, he imported the wigs, he sold the business to Gillette in the 70s for $4 million, which in the 70s was a lot of money. He leveraged that into buying a ski business. The airline industry was regulated back then, and he put together groups of 40, 50 people. I skied for free my entire childhood all over the world. And he sold that to American Express for $20 million. He then leveraged that and started buying condo buildings around Union Square in New York, and really C and D buildings, and turning those loft floors to apartments. And keeping the retail as a landlord. He'd send me into those condo meetings, and I don't know if you know anything about these buildings getting condoed in New York, but the sponsor's the enemy. So I'd walk in 18 years old, didn't know a lot, and just got pounded by these people and taking notes and like just killing me. And I didn't know at the time, but he was teaching me the lesson of thick skin, and I got it. So did that. Worked in the family business for a little bit, and then started a brokerage there. Moved into the cleaning business of the family business. Started with 8 cleaners in the basement of 800 2nd Avenue. My father's company went public in '97. We decided to stay private, and I didn't want to work in a family business. Didn't think my father and I were a great match as father and son, but not a great match as working together. I'm sure there's some people in here that can relate. So started a cleaning company with these 8 cleaners, grew it. SL Green Real Estate went public. They become the largest commercial landlord in New York City by square footage. So when I think about that $5,000 turning into this real estate portfolio, it always brings a smile to my face, and I'm proud of my dad. And so we tailwind on that, got all their properties, and then as a cleaning company, we started buying other businesses, other service businesses. We started to do PR around the non-family businesses, non-family real estate that we got, and slowly but surely we became, by square footage, the largest privately held and the second largest building services company in New York, right behind ABM, the public company ABM.
Fascinating. Great story. I want to just open it up for any questions. Thank you, Gary, for sharing everything. Brett?
Thanks for all you do. You mentioned Ted Lasso a couple times. Talk to us about baseball and the impact of Savannah Bananas.
I have not been to a Savannah Bananas game. I've read Jesse's book, and baseball is, baseball is a little stuffy. Changing a baseball rule, the NBA 3-point line happened and nobody complained. But if you change a rule in baseball that the bases get bigger, or drawing 100 people a game, and turned it into the baseball version of the Harlem Globetrotters, it was kind of like. It was like an FU to baseball. Like, we can make baseball more fun, and we're going to show you how. And it's been amazing to see them fill up football fields now, and it's really, it's not just a product, it's become like a movement and a wave. And it was a couple of years ago, they would play in a minor league stadium, and now, minor league stadiums can't even get them, or if they can, it's expensive. So I think what he's done is great. I think he thought outside the box. I would love to do something with soccer that, it's not very traditionalist, but we score more goals. I think that it would be a great idea, and Jesse and I have spoken about this. Let's make the corner kicks halfway in instead of all the way from the corner. Let's make ties, have a shootout, and no more ties. And when there's a red card, let's make it so that the player's only out like a hockey penalty for 5 minutes instead of the whole game. So I see, and all those things will never happen because soccer people are as stuffy as baseball people when it comes to tradition. So I love what he's doing. I'm jealous of what he's doing. I wish I would have thought of it. And so, that's my thoughts on that.
Howard?
What advice would you have for young people, kids in high school and college that want to get into sports management and ultimately sports ownership?
Sure. So as far as, and you're not talking analytics, right? You're talking management and ownership.
Right.
Yeah, okay. I mean, sports ownership, get with a team. Get with a team like the Storm Chasers and, work as many hours as you can, be around as many executives as you can who know the business, and pull tarp and, and hand out coupons for the sponsors, and just be around smart people. Be around smart people and work as hard as possible, and learn from their qualities. And if you see things wrong with their way they treat people or attitude, learn to do the opposite of what they're doing. Because your examples in business and life should come from what people do right and from what people do wrong.
Mike?
Gary, shootouts stink. Play more soccer. No shootouts.
No,
Can you
the
update
players
us-
get tired.
Can you update us at all on what's going on at the stadium?
One, probably not, as well as everybody wants me here to. But at the mayor's address, at the victory address the other night for the primary, she talked about all her accomplishments downtown with Mutual, and when I say her accomplishments, the accomplishments, Mutual Tower, the Children's Museum, the Luminarium, and all these things that are happening downtown, and the streetcar. And we want to be part of that. And there's such a strong movement downtown for all of these things, and we think we can be an important part of that. And the park, which I took my kids to and is better than anything I've seen in Central Park, we want to be part of that. And we want to be part of that for Gen Zs and millennials who now we want to see people who want to move downtown. Everybody wanted to move out west. And you've been here longer than me, but we want people to come back downtown. She wants 30,000 people living there, 30,000 jobs, and we want to be part of that, and that's what we're working towards. Vague but to the point.
Yeah, well done.
Gary?
Also, the strength of your league, how solid it is. You say you're in the bottom third salary-wise, and the strength of sports is the whole league, and the ones at the bottom surviving. You're in the bottom third. How are the teams below you, and how's the strength and the vision of your league?
Well, I like to say we're the Tampa Bay Rays of USL because we win with the and I'm just proud of that. But this year we've had some injuries, so we're not the bottom third actually. So I want to tell the truth there. The league is strong. We got approached by the NASL a few years back. That league was weak. USL is strong. They have figured out how to make lower than MLS, lower level than MLS soccer strong. So the league is strong, and the league isn't going anywhere. So As far as the league strength is concerned, we're strong. There's, Will, if you can put on the triangle, the soccer triangle. We just adopted promotion relegation, which is huge in the soccer world of the U.S. And people from Europe said, "Why is soccer relevant if you don't have promotion relegation?" Because that's what they play for. That's what's important to them. And our league, League One, adopted it 15-0. And so now we will move up the championship before promotion relegation. We have an option to do that when we get a new stadium. So we want to start at the highest part of that pyramid. And so then we'll start there when we get the new stadium. And then it's promotion relegation. As far as salaries are concerned, I will tell you that with promotion relegation, I'm a little bit concerned about teams spending too much. I'm fighting for a hard salary cap, which I think is necessary. They don't have that in Europe, and teams get into trouble. We don't have a big television deal in USL. So having promotion relegation with big payments to move up and parachute payments when you go down is something we got to deal with. But I want a hard cap, and I do feel like, running a baseball team, a lot of these soccer teams are so focused on what happens in the field, they forget about the business. I think Marty's and I experience with running a baseball team and only focusing on the business is important and differentiates us in the soccer league because we're really focused on the business. And we're lucky that what's happened on the field has been really good.
That helps too.
Yeah.
Gary,
Yeah.
for those of us that don't know, can you tell us what promotion relegation is?
Who knows what promotion relegation is? Uh-oh. I better.
Survival of the fittest.
Yeah. So these are the lower. This is not part of promotion relegation, nor is this level. We are USL League One. MLS next. MLS has their own League One, you could say, and they compete at the same level. USL Championship is what we'll be moving up to. USL has created a Division One, which is their Premier League, and we will have the ability to be promoted and move up to USL Division One if we're one of the top 2 or 3 teams in Championship, USL Championship. We will, unfortunately, can be relegated down to League One if we're one of the bottom feeders of USL Championship. So it'd be great to be in USL Premier League. Right now, the rules are to be in that, you have to have a 15,000 person stadium, and USL Soccer will be changing that, or else we wouldn't be voting for promotion relegation. So USL knows that. So promotion relegation, as far as an ownership standpoint, as an owner and valuation of the team, I find a little bit risky because you have more risk to the asset, and teams will spend more money on players, which is not good for the financial statement. But we need to be responsible with that and make sure we don't spend beyond our means and beyond our revenue. But the revenue jumps when you have a new stadium. So in soccer, you have the haves and the have-nots. And the haves have a new stadium, and the stadium is the business and generates the revenue. And the have-nots are soccer teams that rent 20 events from another landlord, another event, like we're doing with the Storm Chasers. And 20 revenue events at a soccer match, to have the payroll and all the expenses that come with it, is not enough to break even. So it's the haves and the have-nots, and we're trying to be a have.
Marco?
Thank you, Alex. Thank you, sir, for being here. So I grew up in West Africa too, where soccer is the only kind of like the sport that we really know. So thank you for promoting soccer here in the U.S. My question kind of for the two. So we know the World Cup is coming up in the U.S. next year. So do you think the U.S. is really ready to embrace that? And then second, how can Union Omaha leverage that opportunity?
That's a great question. And you would think, that we'd be able to leverage it, and American soccer would be able to leverage it. And out of the '94 World Cup, MLS came. MLS was really the birth of the MLS came with the '94 World Cup. I see it a little different. I see us having competition with the World Cup in 26. I don't know if fans will watch a bunch of games on TV and then say, oh, we're going to go to a USL game, So I like being the only game in town between us and the MLS. So I don't know if 26 becomes a season where the attendance is flatter down because there's so much competition with the World Cup. But I do know that after that, it will give the sport legs in the U.S. and excitement in the U.S. And I think the European fans, they come over so much. I think just being around the European fans and their love of soccer will be infectious and spread to the U.S. and make new fans just like it did in '94. So 26, I expect some really hard competition for our games, but I think that just the worldwide nature of it and all the people coming will be infectious to the United States and the casual fan, which is really important because we have the hardcore fan already. Was there a second part to the question I missed?
Well, that was the leveraging part. I think you answered that.
Okay.
John?
So Gary, thank you again for all you do. I'm a huge sports fan, but sometimes I get disenfranchised from it, especially when I see how these cities struggle with either revenue bonds or city or public money going for stadiums. You made a comment that the stadium and the haves and the have-nots are all about the stadium. Why should cities and municipalities help the owners make their money by putting up the stadiums and costing all the people that?
We didn't approve that question either.
Well, I mean, I just want your opinion.
No, it's a great question. Well, one, the stadium wouldn't happen without it. So the development around the stadium wouldn't happen without it. Sure, there are owners out there that are, remember, the major league owners are billionaires. The minor league owners are millionaires. Although I was just with Kyle Krause in Des Moines the other night, and I think he's a billionaire, and he's going to be in our league. So another guy that may outspend us on players. But this product wouldn't be happening without city and state help. We need city and state help. Everybody sees owning a sports team as, making so much money. And most of these sport teams, if they break even, it's like making a lot of money. So it's an investment in downtown. It's creating jobs. It's creating 30,000. The goal of 30,000 new people downtown and 30,000 jobs, and it comes from financing that will be paid. And I know a lot of people question this, but there's revenue being generated for these bonds. And we have to provide numbers that show this, and we do, so that it's not really giving away money. It's us creating a revenue pool that wouldn't be there if we weren't doing it. So, but there is a difference in Major League and minor league sports between the billionaires who can come out of their pocket and do it themselves more than they should. And the example of the Buffalo Bills, I mean, they can afford to, they got huge money from New York, way too much money. And he's a billionaire, and he could have funded that himself. And I'm going to be, I'm obviously very transparent here. It's like we're not billionaires, we're millionaires, and we can't do it. Yeah.
Go Bills.
Josh?
You talk about the emergence of men's soccer. Do you think Omaha can support a women's team as well, especially in a state that thrives on women's athletics?
Yes, I think Omaha could support a women's team. The women's team in the USL is a winter league, and they don't play in December and January, but in February I think they don't, or they may. But March games, February games, November games are hard in this market. So the southeastern teams in USL, it's easier for them to do. We don't plan on building a dome on the stadium, so we are looking at it. Whether it hurts us, there's an amateur league we're looking at that's only July and August. I understand there's issues that can come up with paying the men and not paying the women, but we need to be practical, and we need to do things that put us in a position to succeed, not fail. And I don't need to tell everybody here about the weather, how contingent it is and on success and failure. So, yes, women's soccer could thrive here. We just need to have it in the right setting.
Well, thank you, Gary. I think that was our time for questions, but thanks for all you do in Omaha.
Thank you.
And